Welcome back. A few years ago, I did several stories on this show about the baggage handlers and other workers at the airport who were fighting to unionize and earn a decent salary. They were ultimately successful, but now the airlines and others are working to undermine those efforts, both here in South Florida and in Tallahassee. I spoke to Miami-Dade County Commissioner Eileen Higgins and Helene O'Brien, the Florida director of SEIU 32BJ, one of the unions representing airport workers.
Well, what's happening is at Miami Airport and throughout Miami-Dade County, the living wage law is applying either directly or indirectly to tens of thousands of workers. And it's been increasing because inflation has been increasing, as everybody in Florida knows, especially in South Florida. And as the wages have gone up, American Airlines has looked to avoid paying them. And so Yulin America is a contractor to American Airlines, and American Airlines terminated part of its contract with Yulin to move its service provider into its American Airlines own in-house wholly owned low-wage subsidiary. So American Airlines owns a company called Envoy Airlines, which provides similar services to that contractors provide, as well as flies planes, I guess. And they pay $13 an hour. The living wage at Miami Airport is $15, plus there's a supplement for healthcare of $3.70, so it's around $18.73 an hour right now. And so 100 workers who are working for Yulin at the $18.73 an hour, those jobs are now going to Envoy at $13 an hour.
So what kind of, let me just jump in and let's try to define it a little bit more. So first off, 100 workers out of roughly how many were at Yulin?
There's still over 1,000 workers at Yulin, but this is not the first time American Airlines has done this. So a few years ago, American Airlines terminated a contract with Yulin, and hundreds of workers ended up leaving the job for wheelchair pushers. Ended up creating 200 wheelchair pushers at, again, a low wage to work for American for their own.
Let me just jump in again. So I just want to just sort of get the perspective. So essentially 100 workers out of the larger group have been pulled now into this lower wage subsidiary. What type of work were they doing?
It's called FIS. It's like a inspection and security. So basically they do things where they'll watch bags, they'll check some security places under the tarmac and where the baggage is. They manage the baggage process. So there's a million of these kinds of, or thousands of these jobs at the airport that make sure the airport is safe and secure.
Commissioner Higgins, let me just sort of bring you in on that. You know, it seems like, and I would imagine Helene believes, it's a little bit of the camel's nose under the tent. You start with maybe you start with the folks who were pushing wheelchairs, you bring them in to pay them lower wage, then you move to, the folks who are doing the security work. Yeah, it's not a huge number, it's about 100 or so people. You bring them under the Envoy, under the lower wage company. Is it likely that this is just going to continue, that they'll continue to transfer these employees, and what can be done about it?
Listen, Jim, you know how hard I have worked to make sure that the workers at our airport are paid properly and treated properly. This slow drip of taking workers that currently are paid our county's living wage and skirting rules because there's a federal loophole that allows them to avoid the county's living wage, and you bring people from a good job with decent salary and health benefits to a low-wage job with no health insurance. It can happen little by little, and at the end of the day, we have a horrible situation in our county where our residents are incapable of paying their rent, incapable of paying any insurance, incapable of even shopping in a local grocery store. We have to do everything we can to make sure that our residents and the general public know that these airlines are profitable. They're very profitable, and they are trying to impoverish the workers that make them profitable, the workers that help these multi-million-dollar executive salaries got paid.
What's been Americans' response, Eileen? I'm sure you've raised this issue with them. What is their take on this? What will I hear from them when I ask them the question?
They have not given us a formal response. What they have done is hired a lobbyist in Tallahassee who registered to represent American Airlines to campaign at the Florida legislature to cut off living wage and lower local wages, basically to stop local governments from setting wages.
Wait a second. So you're not just talking about killing the living wage at, for instance, the airport in Miami. You're talking about the living wage for any city or municipality or county that sets a living wage across the state. There's an effort in Tallahassee, as there was just a year or so ago, to eliminate that, to make sure that you cannot have a living wage. Is that what's happening in Tallahassee right now?
Correct. It's even worse. The actual amendment that is floating around would as soon as, if it were to pass, as soon as the governor's signature was on it, wages would go to the minimum wage, to $11 an hour. So tens of thousands of workers here in South Florida would get a pay cut from $18.73 an hour to $11 an hour. That currently is the language in that amendment.
Commissioner, you just came back from Tallahassee. Talk to me about what's been going on up there and what you were doing with regard to that effort to cut wages for working people across the state.
Well, Jim, as you know, last year, different companies were behind eliminating the living wage ordinance, not just in our county, but in other places around Florida. And they were very overt about it. And I had to go up there numerous times to make sure that those bills died, and they did die last year. This year, they've been a little more insidious. They're trying to sneak in little amendments in other bills, hoping Miami-Dade County doesn't notice, but we have our eyes peeled on this. So over the weekend, they snuck it into a bill on Friday. We did a lot of work over the weekend with our delegation. I flew up the minute the county commission meeting ended and was there all day in committee. And so we were successful in basically getting it stopped in the Senate and in a House bill yesterday. Obviously, there's still 2 more weeks of session. They can try and sneak it in. But I think the residents know I will get on a plane at any moment and make it known that we have a state that is trying to impoverish, in our county alone, between construction responsible wages and living wage, there's 30,000 residents that could be cut to $11 an hour. Let me just tell you right now, a 1-bedroom apartment is about $1,800 a month. A person making $11 an hour only makes $1,900 a month. This is unconscionable. It's almost a sin. I hate to use my Catholic school upbringing, but it's cruel, it's unconscionable. And I'm very proud to say that we were able to stop it. And the Miami-Dade delegation helped us stop it.
Who's behind this from what you can gather?
Listen, I don't know. You're the investigative reporter. What I know is it has to be stopped. I flew up there and I stopped it. And I have 2 more weeks to make sure it stays stopped. What people would try to throw 30,000 people into poverty? Like, who runs a company like this? What is wrong with them? It's just terrible, Jim, that our local government, and by the way, I did not go up there alone. My colleague, Renee Garcia, went with me. So our commission, in a bipartisan way, has just said, this is awful. It has to stop. Our residents deserve a living wage.
I'm sorry, just that, the leadership and the support from the Miami-Dade County Commission and the mayor are incredible. I also want to say that on Monday morning, when we first heard about the amendment, 488 airport workers and security officers covered by living wage between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. called legislators on the House Commerce Committee and asked them to stop. And the following day, another 375, I believe, made additional phone calls. Workers are extremely outraged by this.
This comes also at a time that I realize the union that you represent in terms of the airport workers aren't covered by some of the bills that are also being introduced to essentially try to kill a lot of the public sector unions, the unions that represent nurses and teachers and public sector employees. There's a real effort to try to push bills that will make it much harder for them to exist, because they don't want unions and others watching what they're doing up there, because they can have a much freer hand.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, everyone knows this, but we have to be reminded that in order for democracy to work, you need to be organized. The airlines have their union. It's called Airlines for America. It is a national association of airlines that advocates and lobbies probably at Congress and at every state house in the United States. And the organizations that advocate for workers, especially of all types, are unions. And it is almost as if you have this football game and one team is winning. And so they then change the rules so the other team can only have one player. And that's really what is happening with the attacks right now from the legislature on these organizations of workers who are advocating. It is crazy to me to think about the pandemic a couple of years ago and the dedication and commitment of the Jackson Hospital nurses and professionals working round the clock without any time off. Those workers are now going to be deprived of their right to have an organization speaking, or at least the dues part of it, the dues deduction part of it. And there's going to be an effort constantly to undermine the ability of public sector workers to get together and say, hey, we'd like a little change, or that doesn't work for us, let us get heard. That is what's happening right now. It is, it's a scary time here in Florida. And that's why it's so important that the public and workers need to remember, pay attention, be vigilant, and stay organized.
We'll be right back.